Hello, hello! It has been a while. Hope you guys are doing good, and I know that I've been sparse lately. And if you've been following on social media, you know that I've been playing with Blender a lot. And in the past, on my Twitch streams and other things of the like, I have always said that I would never be able to do digital art. I was wrong. I was I was very wrong. Here I am, 1 year later after learning this software, and whew, boy, have I got some things to show you. So, I thought it'd be cool to start out with something simple like a physics simulation. And there's not a lot of these on YouTube, so let's crack into it. Here's the basic thing that we're going to be trying to replicate. It's very simple, just some cubes falling on some more cubes. But I will show you how to make all of this. Cubes, cyclorama wall, everything. The sky texture that even has a sun somewhere. There's the sun right there. General project. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do with this software. But we're just going to be focusing mainly on the physics tab, the materials, and modeling. Alright, so to start out, what we're going to do, we're going to highlight everything with the box select and hit delete because we don't need any of that crap in our scene. Now, what we can do is we can do Shift A, we will add a plane. And you see it's kind of tiny. If I were to add a cube here, it would overlap it. So, you know, let's go back and not do that. So we'll go to this plane, hit S to scale, and then 10 to scale it up 10 times on all axes. And since this is a plane, it is infinitely thin, so it only scales on the X and Y axis. And you can get around that by extruding this or adding a solidify modifier, but we are not going to do that for these purposes. We are just going to stick to this. Now, it's always a good idea to set up your camera early, so we'll do Shift A, add a camera, and you're like, Brandon, where's the camera? Also, Brandon, why did you delete the camera whenever there was already a camera in the scene? Like, why would you do that? So, honestly, I don't know. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to this little Object Properties tab, and we're going to zero everything out, so now it's just facing down. So we'll bring this up 5 meters, and you can change this to Imperial if you would like to. I do live in the States. You can change it to Imperial here. I do live in the States, but I prefer the metrics for this particular software. So what we could do is go back to our object properties and then change it. You see this is the x-axis right here, so it's going this way. So if we were to turn this, it would turn it on that axis. So we'll just take this and turn it to 90. And now we have our camera facing that way. So the next thing is we're going to go to our plane, and we're going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, and you can also change it up here and go to edit mode. And then up here in edit mode you can do vertex select, which is these points individually, or edge select, which you can select the edges. And this is easier to see in wireframe mode, so you select edges, or face select, and you can select the whole face. But we're just going to stick with edge select for now because we just want to do this one right here. So we'll hit E to extrude, or you can go to extrude, and that will extrude it, but not the way we want it. And you hit Z twice to go up and down on the Z axis. Or, if you want to leave it here, just do E, Z on the Z axis, or Z if you're in Canada or anywhere else other than the United States, because apparently they say Z, we say Z. I don't know. I don't know why. But we'll bring this up a little bit here. Bam. There we go. Now we have part of a cube. So what are we going to do now? We're basically going to build a cyclorama wall. Gives you an infinite background. Well, it fakes it. So we'll do this, and then there is this button down here that says bevel. And if you hover over things, you can, see what it does. And also, it gives you the shortcut keys. So you can do Shift Spacebar, and then that gives you all of these that you can change. Change it to bevel. And that does exactly what you would think it would do. It's bevels. Hit Z again. And then we'll go back up to here. And we can do Control B was the other one. So now you pull this out. And it's just like if you're scaling something, you can scale it like that. But for this, we'll bring it out about there. And you can scroll up on your mouse wheel to add more cuts. I'm going to stick with 5 because I like 5. Drop a comment if you love The Umbrella Academy Season 3. So now we're back in our scene here. So we'll go to out of edit mode by hitting Tab or selecting object mode to solid view. And you see this faceting here. We're not face sitting. Not that. So we want it to be smooth. So we will select right click, shade smooth, and bam, it's done. And say you want to go into the camera. So you select your camera. You can go to view, and you can go to cameras, and you can go to active camera. And that brings you into your view. But you can also, if you notice, you will see numpad 0. So you do numpad 0 also to go into your camera. So we're going to bring this back on the y-axis so you can see the whole floor. And this, there's two ways that you can do this. You can go into edit mode and you hold Alt, click on this edge, and then you hold Shift Alt and click on this edge, and now you have both of these selected. And you can do E and then S, and that brings them out on the X-axis. So now you have those loop cuts right there that don't really do anything. Or you can break it entirely. You can do Control Z. You can do S, X, to scale on the X-axis, and just scale it up about that. And then that'll be enough in edit mode. You can also do S to scale and then X on the X-axis to do it in solid mode. But if you do that, make sure that you Control A and apply your scale. I'm going to go ahead and apply all transforms just in case. So the next thing that we're going to do is Shift A and add a cube. And then I will hit G to grab this, and Z on the Z-axis, bring it up here. So now we're just about ready to get into our physics. So at this point, we have two objects in our scene. A cube, a plane. So we're going to name this one, hit 2 on the plane, and name it passive. And then we will move our camera out of this collection. So now we have this, and they're both separate objects with names, and we know exactly what we're doing. So we'll go down here to the Physics tab, and on this plane, we don't want it to be... we don't want it to fall. So if I just add a rigid body to this, which is what you use for actual physics simulations in here. There's also soft body, which is kind of like Jello. we're not going to use that today. And in this rigid body, you can take this, and this is our passive object, so we're going to set it to passive. And then now you have all these settings down here. So for this particular one, it is currently set to the collision shape is convex hull, and we don't want that, because what a convex hull is it takes basically the edges of this and constructs a mesh around it. So we're going to want to change this to mesh. That way, it will be just this entire mesh here. So we'll go back into our camera view, and then we'll go here to our active object and hit rigid body. And by default, it adds an active to it and adds dynamic and convex hull on here. So for this one, it's just a box. We are going to change it to box. And if you hit the space bar on your keyboard, that will start the animation, and there we go. We have a cube that is dropping. But we want it to look kind of cool, you know. What we'll do is we will go / on the keyboard, which is right next to the shift key above the Windows button if you have the same kind of keyboard that I do. If not, then I would just look for the / key. And now that isolates our active object, so we can do some cool modeling to it. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can go to your modifiers and add a subdivision surface, and that basically makes this. But what this is called is non-destructive modeling, and in order for it to work with the rigid body, all of our modifiers have to be applied. So we're not going to do it that way. So we'll go back to edit mode. We have everything selected here, and we'll do Control B to bevel, and we'll just leave it at that 5 cuts there that it has. Now, you see the outside is still showing a cube. Now that is because, and we'll also right click shade smooth so that way it looks smooth, and that is because this box here is because we have it set to box. So if we set it to sphere, it's going to be spherical. If we set it to capsule, it'll be a capsule. If we set it to cone, it will be a cone. You see that right there. So what we're going to do, since it's this nice shape right here, we'll go ahead and set this to mesh. And hit / again to go back to where we were and unisolate this, or solate it. No. If anybody knows the word for taking something out of isolation, let me know. So now we have this cube and the same thing. So everything is the same except we just changed what the object looks like. And hit the spacebar again, and it's going to bounce around and fall. Bam. Now we have a neat physics simulation. So we'll go back to the beginning, and we want this to look a little bit different, you know, kind of bouncier, you know. So we will go Shift D to duplicate an object, and now we have active 1, and we'll G to grab and move this on there. So now when this falls, it's going to hit this one, and then Shift D again, and then move it over here and about right here. And we're going to scale this one down and hit Control A and apply the scale. And then Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and Shift D, and Shift D. So now we have all of these cubes here. So now when we play our simulation, everything is active, so it all falls, and it all falls just like some dice. You got your 2 big ones, and you got your little ones, and they're kind of bouncy, you know? Now, so there we go. And now we have our simulation, which I I kind of dig. I like it. And we will go ahead and go to the shading tab here, hit 0 to go on our camera view on the numpad, and then we will change this to material, and we'll change this and add a material. So we'll make this one gold, and then we will make this one blue. Blue. So we'll change this to a bluish color, and I want to turn up the metallic on it. No, I want to turn down the metallic on it and increase the roughness so it's, you know, it's pretty nice. And I'll add a clear coat to it, which just reflects the light a little bit to make it kind of shiny. And in rendered view, we'll see that our world is set to gray. We're going to bring that all the way down and then change this shader to world. Hit the period on the number pad to go directly to our background. Hit Shift A, and I'm going through this really fast, but there's plenty of material tutorials and sky texture tutorials on YouTube. Have at it. Can't think of any offhand right now. And it says Nishida not available. Wonder why? That is because we are in Eevee. We need to go to Cycles, change it to GPU, bring our viewport samples down to 32, and then these down to 64. And now we have a sky texture if I connect this noodle here. So now we have this is our orange. So we'll go ahead and change that to a goldish color. Bring up the metallic, down the roughness. Now this is very simple. I'm going to turn on denoising so you can see it a little bit better. This is a very simple texture here. But what we'll do is we'll just add a little bit of visual interest and add a noise texture with a color ramp. And by default, it uses generated texture coordinates. So we'll do Control T, We'll do Control T. That is a Node Wrangler add-on thing. So if you want that, go to Edit, Preferences, and type in Node Wrangler up there, and you'll be able to enable it. And see, by default, it uses generated, but we want it to use object. And you see the noise texture on there is driving our roughness. So if I increase this black here, you'll see it gets progressively less rough and shiny. And if I increase the white, you can see it gets very clippy on the gradient there. So there's a couple things that you can do. We'll go here. We'll change this to B-spline. So it's just a little bit softer. And what we'll do with this roughness here, we'll take this, Shift A, and add a bump. Put the color into the height, and put the normal into the normal. And now it looks like this. Because the strength is way too much, we will hold Shift and drag on that, and that lowers the bump on it. So you got 0 does nothing, and then maybe 0.1, 0.3. You can start seeing some of that detail. It looks kind of cloudy. If you want to invert it, you can do that. So in this case, I like it with this one. So now we will go and shift click all of our other objects. Make sure all of our active objects are selected. shift click on this one, so it's the active object, and then hit Control L to link materials, and now they all have the same material. Isn't that amazing? Now, we can go here, bring this up here a little bit. If you want to move this around like I did, you can hold Shift and the middle mouse button and drag it around. So now we have this nice little simulation here with the colors and all of that. And another thing that's really cool, if you want to mess with the lighting a little bit, go back to our world and you can change the sun elevation to right midday, that is noon, high noon, or you can go to 5 degrees and it's kind of a sunset. You can also change the rotation, so that way you are casting shadows if you would like to do that, which I like this one better anyways. So now you have all of these shadows that are really cool looking, and the cubes are defined more. And now you have a physics simulation you can take home to your mama and show her, and she'll be like, oh, good job, bud. Now that we've got that done, we will go ahead and change our render settings here. So we're just going to do standard 1920 by 1080, 24 frames a second. We're doing 100 frames, and our output is going to be PNG, RGBA, even though we don't really need the alpha. And we'll change the output folder to something a little bit more preferable, like subscribe to my channel or Fizz01. We'll change it to Fizz. So now I have it set up here to go into where I want it to render. And then we'll go here, click this, and render an image. Now it renders this image here. There we go. And that took about 13 seconds to render, so anybody can do this. We'll take this and get it set up to look decently cool. We'll go to compositing, click use nodes, Shift A, add a lens distortion, and we'll do Control Shift click to view it in our viewport, and that is a Node Wrangler add-on thing. Switch that there, and you hit V to zoom out on this. It took me the longest time to figure that out. And what we can do with this lens distortion is click Fit, add 0.1 distortion, add 0.01 dispersion, 0.01 distortion. Dispersion and distortion just adds a little bit of chromatic aberration to the edges here. So if anything gets near the edges, it'll be a little bit more aberrated. So now we'll do this and render animation and wait for that to go, and here is the finished product. If you like the video, please consider giving it a like or subscribe. As always, I am Brandon, and I will see you in the next one.